those are all the books that I have bought. Hey everybody, today I'm doing my first ever book haul video. I'm really excited. It's a good time to do some book buying and book reading, so let's get started. Alright, so the books I have today I got in March and April, basically since school's been out. A lot of these are books that I've seen on other people's channels and talked about, although they're not necessarily the most recent ones like Crescent City, but I think you will definitely see some that you recognize. I also have a few that I just want to finish the series or even start a series. So, let's get started. The first book that I bought was Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I've been watching Studio Ghibli movies and I knew that this was a book. I wanted to read the book before I watched the movie because that's how I tend to do those that have adaptations. I always want to read the book first. However, I have heard that the book and the movie are not that similar. I don't know because I haven't read or watched, but I'm excited to see how these two compare. And I am confident that this is a good book and one that I'll like. So it is officially on my list. My next buy was a series that I'm trying to slowly finish collecting. It's one that I read when I was maybe in middle school, and that is Artemis Fowl series. So I got Artemis Fowl, The Opal Deception by Owen Colfer. This cover does not match the covers that I have for my other collection. They're definitely older. You can tell I've had these like since middle school, but I only have like the first three. So it never really bothers me if the covers don't match. I know a lot of booktubers like to have like a set and have them all matching, and I have never been really bothered. The whole collection is my goal. I even have some sets that are like mixed paperback and hardback, which I know for a fact would drive people crazy, but as long as I have the books on my shelf, I'm not too concerned. Don't get me wrong, I love a beautiful cover and I will get a beautiful cover by any day of the week, but I'm not that concerned about matching sets per se. Another series that I wanted to finish is Kenneth Opal's Airborne series. So this is the second one, Skybreaker, and then I also got the third one, Star Climber. This is another young adult fantasy that I read when I was in middle school and I absolutely loved, and I'm hoping to get time to eventually reread both this and the Artemis Fowl series just to kind of see how I feel about them now that I'm an adult, see if they still have that magic that I just loved about them when I was younger, and I am pretty confident that I will still love them today. I probably won't get to reread them for a while because I have so many other books on my list and I just keep buying more, as you'll see. Another goal of mine when making these purchases was to fill in some genres that I didn't have as many for when I was making my TBR game, which I'll link down in the description. I realized that I had like 40 unread fantasy novels and maybe 5 unread like short stories, mystery, romance, which I focused more on the short stories this time. One of those that I got was Every Heart a Doorway by Shana McGuire, which I have seen all over BookTube recently over the last year or so, and just the premise of these kids going to other worlds and then kind of what happens after just seemed really beautiful and intriguing, and I am so looking forward to reading this. I'm hoping it comes up in my TBR game pretty soon because it's one that I'm definitely interested in reading and getting the rest of this series if I enjoy it. So another nice short story to add to my list. I also got Geektastic. This is stories from, it says, The Nerd Herd. So it has a bunch of different authors, some that I recognize, Cassandra Clare, Leba Bray, John Green, Garth Nix, which you all know is one of my favorite authors. I saw this book mentioned on Breakeven Books channel. I'll link his channel down below. And I was immediately interested. First of all, I needed more short stories. Second, it had so many good authors on it that I just knew that there'd have to be some story in here that I liked. It does have artwork in it in some of these, So I'm really excited to kind of see what each author's story reads like, how they compare to their novels that I've read. I mean, it's called Geektastic, you know, which, like, sign me up. I also got some graphic novels to add to my set for my TBR. I got Monstrous by Marjorie Liu because I've seen this on several channels and I don't even care what it's about. The artwork is beautiful. That cover is probably one of the most beautiful covers that I have on my shelf. And I just love the artistic style. So I'm interested to get into this one. Another one that I've heard a ton about and I've had on my list to buy for a while is Saga by Brian Vaughan. I only got volume 1. You could have got like the full collection or some of them bundled, but I decided to just get volume 1 because I do kind of want to have them separated. I don't want like the full collection in one. I want to have the different books, you know what I mean? So again, great artwork. I love the coloring. It's so bright and vibrant, and from what I've heard, the story sounds great. So another short story that I got is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is part of the Murderbot Diaries. So this is from the point of view of a droid that has become self-aware and calls itself Murderbot, and it has to work with the scientists that work with it and created it to go on different missions. So it's a very small novella, but I've heard good things, and I'm hoping to be able to, again, pick up this full series. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm starting a lot of series. I have so many series that I've bought the first few books. So one of my goals for the rest of this year is to only buy books that go in a series or work with my TBR game if I don't have enough in a genre. Probably won't stick to that completely, but for the most part, that is my goal. Let's keep going. This book I've heard great things about since I started watching YouTube like a year and a half ago, and I finally got around to buying it, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstein. I know that Clockwork Reader just like gushes about this book. She was one of the first booktubers that I actually started watching. This was towards the very first book that I added to my list to buy from BookTube. So I finally officially have it. This next one was more of an author buy, and that is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman. Basically anything he writes, I feel like I'm going to enjoy. I'm interested to see his take on Norse mythology and just how he represents Thor, Loki, and all of that. I really love mythology. It's not something I read about very often, but when I do, I really enjoy it. And I actually took a mythology class during college, and it was one of my favorite classes. Another one that I've heard a lot about in the sci-fi genre is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I don't know much about it, but I know it's a good sci-fi kind of introduction book from what I've heard. I know that Becky Chambers is a pretty well-known author in the sci-fi genre. Actually, I don't know those things for sure. That's just the feeling that I've gotten from the BookTube reviews I've seen on this. So I don't know much about it except for it's a space adventure. Another start to a series that I got is Nemesis by Brandon Reese. The synopsis says that since Min was 8, she's been being murdered once a year. No, every 2 years on her birthday. The same man finds her and murders her in cold blood, and she wakes up and there's no evidence and she just goes on with her life. So she's been trying to find out what's going on. At the same time, there is Noah, who's haunted by nightmares of murder and death. So I'm assuming those two things will come up together, but then at the same time, there's an asteroid headed towards their planet. I'm not sure, but just the premise of being murdered on your birthday, waking up, not knowing what's happened, no evidence of it, and maybe the connection to this guy who's having dreams about murder seems intriguing. I'm not sure how I feel about the asteroid or how that's going to play into it. I also just bought the first 3 in the box set for the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I'm doing this with a reading group, so our goal is to kind of work through the books together. Since it's such a huge series, these books are thick and dense. I mean, the writing is not small. So I will link Witchkittenreads. She started a Discord for all of us that are going to work on reading this together. It's starting May 25th, so you still have time to join. I would definitely recommend it. The group so far seems super cool. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up and add it to my TBR actually today. So be on the lookout for this. And then it also has the second and third one. I'm not sure how I feel about these covers. Like, I'm glad I got the box set. It was pretty cheap, but I feel like the covers are kind of just plain. I mean, you know, the books themselves I've heard are like amazing. So I'm excited, really excited to read this, and I'm excited to get started with a group because this is going to be my first like booktube group read. So yeah, the last book that I got was actually a gift for my birthday, and it is Priest by Matthew Colville. He is a YouTuber actually that does like D&D videos, I think. And so this is his first book, and it's about a village that has people called the Green Order that help protect them from whatever mischief, bandits, dragons, all that kind of stuff. It sounds like there's this huge army coming, and they go to find out why the Green Order isn't doing anything about it, and they're all gone. So they're trying to find the Green Order and stop the army and kind of put all those pieces together. I don't know anything about it, but the person who gave it to me says they've read it like 3 or 4 times and loved it every time. They said the second book is maybe even better than the first. But yeah, so I'm excited to read this one. It should be good. Those are all the books that I've bought in the last few months. I'm going to try and not buy any more until later in the year, and hopefully do some unhauling before I buy those because I have absolutely no room for these. One of the rules I set for myself this year was to not buy more than I've read. I've read 35 books so far this year, which a lot of them were very small books, so I am technically still following that rule, but I've been reading small books and replacing them with big books on my TBR, so I don't know. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of these books and how you feel about them so I know what I'm getting into. Alright, I'll see you later.